Is Kyle Hamilton the best coverage defender in the NFL? Well, when we dive deeper into the numbers before we look at the tape, he is the most efficient. He's the most efficient safety in the NFL. He's the most efficient DB in the NFL. And he might be the most efficient, impactful, and effective defensive back in football. Let me go through some stats presented by Sports Info Solutions really quickly. When Kyle Hamilton is targeted, he is allowing a quarterback rating of 46.1, which is 10th. Okay, pretty good, right? That's among all coverage defenders with at least 30 targets. Yards per attempt when targeted, 3.1 yards per attempt when targeted. That's like if you took Zach Wilson's career yards per attempt, cut them in half, and then took more off of them. He only allows 3.1, which is zero point 0.9 yards more than any other defender in the NFL. He only allows 7 yards per game in coverage, which is first in the NFL. He only allows 0.1 yards per coverage snap. The next closest is 0.3. His EPA when targeted is minus 28.81. Considering he hasn't been targeted an extreme amount, 33 targets, that's crazy because per target, that is negative 0.55 yards per target in terms of EPA. That's like the San Francisco 49ers offense of negative. As good as the 49ers offense is in terms of EPA per play or per pass play, that is how good Kyle Hamilton is as a coverage defender in terms of efficiency. Success rate when targeted, I think this is the craziest one. He is allowing a 14.3 positive EPA rate when targeted. That is by far the highest mark in the NFL. That means that basically 8 or 9 times out of 10, a negative EPA is being produced when Kyle Hamilton is targeted. He is doing it all for this Ravens offense. Ravens defense, the next closest figure is Martin Emerson, who has a 24.5% positive EPA rate allowed when targeted. So he's a corner. If you want to go down to safety in many of these categories, the next closest player is Rayshon Jenkins on the Jaguars, who is allowing a 35.1 positive EPA rate when targeted. That is 3 times more often than Kyle Hamilton, who, by the way, is 22 years old in his second season in Baltimore. The things he can do, not only as a coverage defender, not only as a pass rusher, not only as a nickel, but also as a safety, as a true deep safety in a deep half or in a deep third, are just utterly absurd. He looks like Cam Chancellor combined with Victor Wembanyama combined with the stick man. It is out of control. We're going to get into the tape here and take a look at what Kyle Hamilton has been doing. And I want to start out with first a screen, which he annihilates. If you throw screens at Kyle Hamilton, I don't know why, but I really want to look at this Jaguars game too and a couple other clips against the Chargers to show how Kyle Hamilton is much more than the narratives around him. He is a complete safety in every sense of the word. If you are watching, hit that smash, smash that like and subscribe button for me so we can keep bringing you some awesome content on the Exit 52 page. Without further ado, let's get to the tape. And these are the things that we know Kyle Hamilton does. Blows up screens. If a quarterback sees a screen going to Kyle Hamilton's side, a tunnel screen or a bubble screen, we see this tunnel screen here, you should check out of it because he is going to get around the block and he is going to go make the tackle. He's done it all season. The guy has not practiced much. He had a knee sprain last week. This is the opening drive of Sunday Night Football on a 22-year-old safety playing in the nickel, and he just works right around an offensive lineman, goes and makes the play and shakes his head and says, no, you can't run that to my side. Don't. It's insulting at this point. Why are you still running screens to Kyle Hamilton's side of the field, especially when he's in the slot? Makes no sense. These are the things that people are saying Kyle Hamilton isn't doing. Marcus Williams is out in this game. We see Hamilton is going to get depth in the deep half, and Geno Stone is too. So the Jaguars are going to try to run him out, take that corner away, which will make Geno Stone have to stay on this crosser. And then they're going to try and sneak, as Kyle Hamilton drifts and carries, sneak this post inside leverage. And Kyle Hamilton is just going to speed turn at 6'4", and who knows, 220, 230 pounds. These are the things that people are saying Kyle Hamilton can't do. Turning his head, spinning, and maybe could have picked this ball off, honestly, but Calvin Ridley wants no part of this defensive end that can move, hitting him in the end zone here. And this is super late in this game. Jaguars are trying to get a score here, but just watch the little speed turn there. Turns, locates the football, gets his eyes up on the receiver, and Ridley is not even looking at the ball anymore. He wants nothing to do with that. That honestly could have been a hospital ball from Trevor Lawrence. But again, these are just the things that people say, oh, he couldn't do, or imply that he's not currently doing. He is doing these things consistently at the NFL level. So we'll continue on here, go through this one more time quickly. Look at the back end of it. See the speed turn there. Identifying. That is IQ. That is what makes good safeties. You don't have to run 4-4 or 4-3 to be a good safety. You just can't take the cheese. Right there. Didn't take the cheese. Passed off, understood, watched the ball, visioning the quarterback, and then speed turns. Locates the ball and the receiver and the catch point and prevents the Jaguars from rallying super late in this one. 2 plays later, the Ravens are playing some red 2, soft red 2, and we're going to see that same kind of deal. And the Jags are going to have this trips bunch here and try and split. Trevor Lawrence, I should say, is going to try and split Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey. And again, maybe Hamilton could have played this slightly better, sure, but still, end of the game, closes it out. We've seen the Jaguars come back late on the Ravens. Jaguars have timeouts here, and Hamilton gets just enough of this football to dislodge it, to bobble it, to alter its path for Calvin Ridley, who then we get into a dissertation from Terry McCauley on what a floating knee is, or a floating hip, or a floating unicorn. God only knows. But just full extension, making plays in the deep half. You'll see that ball alter. We'll see it better on the reverse angle there. But just making plays late in a game to close things out as a safety in the deep half. Kyle Hamilton, at 22 years old, is one of the most efficient and one of the most talented, athletic, playmaking defensive backs, coverage defenders in general in the NFL. We can see here again, can see the ball come out. Trevor Lawrence attempting a super high difficulty pass into a tight window to his number 1 receiver, and Hamilton just flips the ball, causes it to smack. Ridley's bobbling it, falls out of bounds, incomplete. Making plays as a safety in the deep half. Speaking of nickel, let's take a look at some of the things that he does as a nickel. This isn't in the pass game, but this is just showing the impact of the length and strength of Kyle Hamilton, working right through Keenan Allen's face on this outside run concept. Just right through the face on this outside zone. And then says, too small, you're too little. To Keenan Allen, who's 6'2", 215 pounds probably at this point. Just right through his face. Just runs right through his face like he's not there. And goes and wraps up the runner and says, you are too little. And now, do you want to see some man coverage from Mr. Hamilton? He is pressed up here. The Ravens are probably in some sort of man match here. We're going to see them rotate into a middle of the field close concept. And we're going to see Jalen Guyton, who runs 4-3, who is speedy, get targeted. Kyle Hamilton is just going to turn and run with him 30 yards downfield in trail tech and go make a play. Doesn't give him a yard, doesn't give him 2 steps of separation, and he has a 17-foot wingspan. This is NFL Victor Wembanyama we are seeing in press man coverage on someone who runs 4-3 and doing it fluidly, confidently, making plays in every facet as a coverage defender, as a nickel, as a deep safety, doing it all, turning and running downfield. Kyle Hamilton is 22 years old and might be the most impactful and efficient coverage defender in the NFL right now. We think back to his 40 time and the things that made him fall to the Ravens, and he's just so athletic, it's absurd. Look where he is on Jalen Guyton. Glued to him, forcing a perfect throw. Might even be able to pick that, maybe. Doing it all in Baltimore.